boys! Today I'll be reading Chapter 8, the final chapter of Colours of Obsession by Bubbly Ship. I know it's been over a month or just over a month since I posted last. I've had some exciting updates on my shoulder, so I haven't really wanted to post until I got all that done. I'll get into that at the end of this video. I'm gonna get into it now. Just remember sorry. I'm a little bit sick at the moment. I've been putting this off because I haven't been able to properly breathe. But I've still got a bit of a runny nose. So, yeah, I'm gonna get into it now. Sorry, I've been talking for so long. Okay. Izuku knew, deep down, his mother wouldn't say a goddamn thing about him disappearing. After all, he vanishes so often into the night, and she's never said a peep before. An official report wouldn't change that. Even pretending seemed too good for her, as he realized by Hitoshi's expression that she hadn't even raised a fuss when he was likely reported missing. Knowing deep down and finding out are different things. There was always that sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, real danger would kick in her parental instincts, that Inko would come through one day, and Izuku? He needed that confirmation. After strangers who killed dozens of people just to meet him treated him like the son they've always wanted. People who act like parents he's always wanted, despite not knowing a damned thing about him. And what does Inko do? He's not sure. Likely, from Hitoshi's expression, a shit ton of nothing. He doubts she'd even be home if he went there. That single fact of confirmation from his friend sends a bitter weight in his chest, one full of tears, ready to be spilled if anything so much as rocks that boat within him. Izuku went missing, and his mother didn't do anything about it. He doubts she even filed the report. Meanwhile, one of Japan's biggest threats bought him a bento before making him meals for the next day. His own mother couldn't even make him home-cooked meals anymore. But they bothered to pay attention to his interests that they knew and picked them up so Izuku could paint. Did Inko even know Izuku was an artist? Izuku managed to lie to himself all these years that it'd be fine and to have an absentee parental figure. And it was a lie he held onto, because nothing could possibly contradict it. Hitoshi's parents were amazing, but they were always in the realm of looking out for Hitoshi's friend, not looking after Izuku as a son. That distinction was enough to carry on, along with the lack of confirmation that even in the worst of times she wouldn't pull through. Not encountering any major health or safety concerns was left doubt for plausibility. Today, he has only confirmed his worst fears, and that at the worst of times, too. Right after he so desperately needed that verification, right after people who were considered vile by society suddenly went out of their way to try and take care of Izuku, and went to such lengths to meet him. And here was another one of his supposed new family members who seemed to understand the jarring surprise Izuku was in, and was willing to share his own experiences, if Izuku would listen. It's not like he has anywhere else to go. They already had their eye on Hitoshi, apparently. For fuck's sakes, they knew his friend's quirk, which was bad. And no doubt all his friend's family was flagged as well. He'd rather not run and get the only kind people in his life killed. And a small part of him wants to know how he'd managed to get this man's attention on him to warrant such a vicarious obsession with him. To know if there's even a chance, like a crookless Deku, to receive parental love. Is it selfish? Probably. Is it stupid? Definitely. Izuku certainly didn't get into the situation because he acted rashly, but he doesn't think he cares at the moment. He gave up his dreams forever ago to abide by a society that hated him. His only friend was now known by dangerous villains, and if he ran now, Hitoshi or his parents would be first on the chopping block. And it's not like this is the first time he acted rashly, impulsive, and demanding, only for it to kick him in the ass later. Hitoshi looks like a fish out of water the whole walk there, trying to subtly, not subtle in the slightest, situate himself between this Oboro guy and Izuku. Izuku heard the slightest mention of an uncle to him here and there, and he remembered Aizawa briefly calling someone named Oboro in the car when he was driving Izuku to his apartment, just like how he had called Hisashi with that very same information. So Oboro was someone trusted by Aizawa at the very least, and also knew, in a broad sense, what Izuku was going through. Where Oboro leads them to, as promised, was a small, cute coffee shop just out of the district Izuku and Hitoshi usually roamed at for food. So it's one they're unfamiliar with, but they've seen a few times when traveling out. It's cute, admittedly. Small, quaint interior with cozy booths and a plant corner with all sorts of vibrant green inside. Oboro ushers them forward to where the register was, insisting they pick out both a breakfast and a drink, since skipping breakfast was undesirable. Hitoshi, still looking like he was drowning in oxygen, orders the first thing he sees and stares bug-eyed at Oboro, as if expecting the villain to suddenly lash out and strangle both of them. Izuku, who's a little more used to villains being model citizens at this point, is quicker to adjust to the sudden change. He gets a matcha raspberry boba since he's always been a sucker for grass-flavored raspberry. Hitoshi makes a face at his order, and the same one he always does whenever Izuku orders anything other than coffee at a coffee shop. Glad his friend has his mind tacked together throughout the situation, even if it was likely held together by duct tape and spite alone, which Izuku can agree with since he thinks he's only running on adrenaline at the moment, the type fueled by an emotional drop leading to autopilot than anything else. Desperation, maybe some bizarre internal need for validation and family that was as dry as a desert, and even the slightest hints of likely fake affection from the villains were enough to make him addicted. Who knows? Izuku doesn't. He's fucking 15. When Oboro leads them to a little corner booth with a few flowers in pots, he lets them organize themselves closer to the door. Hitoshi looks a little relieved at this notion, but Izuku knows if it's anything but reassuring other than appearances. Oboro was trying to show them some security, but he probably was confident enough in his ability to snag them and drag them back before they could get far. Izuku managed to get lucky with those few hours of opportunity with Shota and Hisashi to escape. Oboro is very much wide awake and staring him down, a pleasant and casual smile on his face. Honestly, I should have expected him to adopt soon. Hisashi was getting antsy, and boy, does Shota fold for him. You should see it. Izuku has seen it plenty of times. In the small amount of time he stayed with them, he already has a basic understanding of their dynamic. Hisashi was loud, but earnest, wearing his emotions on his sleeve with honor. Shota, the grumpy, coffee-stinking kidnapper, was quieter as a wallflower, loved to just stare and watch as if he was enjoying his own little personal zoo of creatures that fascinated him. Hisashi would suggest something, and Shota would always fold after a few nudges. It was weird to know so much about Eraserhead's married life after watching Hitoshi go on rants about his villainous skills, and more so after watching the news about the bodies. Izuku should not know about their morning routine. Who? Hitoshi whispers to Izuku, looking so out of depth in this conversation. A conversation he shouldn't even be in, but considering that Izuku kicked Hitoshi to the curb for the Eraserhead meetup, his friend would most likely have been dragged away from Izuku kicking and screaming profanities. Eraserhead and Present Mike, they're married. Izuku whispers back. Hitoshi bleats out with an odd sound that Izuku has never heard in his life. Oboro positively cackles, leaning forward with his chin resting on his hands. Perched up, he watches the two boys almost like a babysitter who finds kids a bit wild but ultimately cute at the end of the day. Ow, that hurt. Yep, it's always so funny when people find out. Not that many people do. Shota is real quiet about his relationships and about his career, about everything, really. Oboro waves his hand, dismissing the thought. Either way, he likes you, kid. When he first met you, he went on an hour-long rant about it. He really likes you, kid. Thinks you're adorable and the perfect kid to adopt. And you don't know how picky that man is for his obsessions. Izuku feels his chest clutch at those words. He just doesn't understand. Is it the art? No. If it was just the art, he would have probably pushed Izuku to paint the moment he got kidnapped. Maybe it was the case of Izuku being the first idiotic person to dare snark at Eraserhead. But that shouldn't lead to such a need to kidnap him, then home him for no reason. Obsessions? Hitoshi breathes out, looking at Izuku wide-eyed. Wait, fuck, hold on. His friend holds out his hand. Slow down. He tried to adopt Izuku? Tried is a bit of a weaker word, kiddo. Oboro sips from his drink, long and slow, not an ounce of hurry in sight. He's got some connections. He probably already has a new identity brewing. Izuku Aizawa, I believe. And, I mean, when Shota finds a person he likes, he keeps them. I cannot explain how jarring it was to suddenly be the object of his eye, Izuku, and I get it. One moment I thought he was indifferent to me. The next he kept staring at me like he was going to mount my head into the wall. Real wild. Those times. How does that work? Izuku demands, leaning forward, his matcha drink already long forgotten, even though he hasn't eaten. He hasn't even in hours from his long bus journey, and he's still in his socks. He's surprised he hasn't gotten kicked out over that yet, probably because none of the workers have noticed quite yet. His obsession, I don't get it. My mum didn't even care that I was gone, apparently, but Eraserhead just decided I was his kid, just like that, and I'm supposed to believe that. Yep, Oboro says so fast that it almost gives Izuku whiplash, causing him to draw back nervously in his seat. A drink is pushed into his hands, his matcha, but none other than Hitoshi, who's giving a heated glare towards Oboro. What exactly is Eraserhead planning with my friend? Hitoshi demands. Oboro holds up his own hands, looking relatively caught off guard by Hitoshi's hostility. Despite that, he shoots Hitoshi a warning look before he answers. It's safe to assume Eraserhead knows their location, so Hitoshi is best to Best off not using his quirk and pissing off the current watcher. Nothing bad, I promise. Shota is very passionate, and it can come off as creepy, but he really does love Izuku. I can guarantee that. Love. That's a strong word that makes Izuku's chest lurch. And he starts drinking his matcha to try to distract himself from those rotten feelings. I mean it, Oboro continues. He's either completely disinterested or completely obsessed with people. If you get onto his radar, he's genuine. It's sudden, yeah, freaky, absolutely, but it's real. I remember being confused, heck, even scared. You know what it's like to go from some stone-faced expression to him fretting over my bedding while I was recovering from a villain attack? Villain attack? There's so much information as Izuku's mind is stumbling through it all, desperately trying to keep up and process it. How did you guys even meet? Does he... Izuku asks, choose. Oh, how does he... Izuku asks, choose? He's not sure what questions he should be asking, or even if any question was the right question. There is no correct choice to pick from an array of predetermined sections, not like those games he played with before. It's an empty void of confusion where he could stare and ask and receive too much no matter what. Oboro pauses, lingering on the question for a moment. A shrug soon follows suit. When we first met, he wasn't that interested in me. Frankly, he met both Hisashi and me at the same time. I was Hisashi's friend, so we all three hung out together. But he made it clear that he wasn't that into me at all. Even as a bystander, he thought I was always taking up space. His finger soon finds a straw, and the man before them starts to idly twirl it in his cup, rotating the plastic back and forth. He always was so smitten with Hisashi, following him around doing his homework. One time, he walked an hour and a half to his house just to drop off notes. It was during our hero internship when he actually became obsessed with me. Hero internship. Not only did they meet at a school, they met at a hero school. 3 world-class villains went to a hero's high school. Izuku took a quick peep around the cafe, trying to find a single soul besides Hitoshi who seemed as startled as him. The only other person in the store was at the register, who seemed to have slipped into the back a while ago to shake off the morning grogginess. That's probably why Oboro knew this place. It was a good nowhere place to meet anyone without being listened in on during these hours. Hero? Hitoshi hisses out, his eyes wide and bugging, as if they were about to pop out of his skull and roll away to avoid this conversation. Izuku winces at his tone, his hands gripping into his cup further. Hitoshi, his only and most dear friend in the world, was applying to be a hero. It was supposed to be his escape from the constant claims of villainism he was destined for. Heroes becoming villains are rare, impossible. Most heroes who don't remain heroes just disappear from the market. And hero students becoming villains? Hitoshi looked like he was going to throw up. His face was all white and pasty, likely cold to the touch. Izuku lightly hits his heel against his friends to remind them that they're both alive and fine at the moment, and he'll take that. He has to, after all. Yeah, Oboro snorts. There's a distant look on his face as he continues on, as if living pleasant but one-time memories he never planned to return to. We went to UA. Oh. Why? Hitoshi ran a hand through his hair, tugging at his gravity-defying bangs. You were at UA. You know how hard that is to get into? You had the opportunity of a lifetime I struggled for. I barely got in. Hitoshi's face goes red from frustration, and he seems to be flailing his hands about. Hitoshi looks to be struggling, and Izuku thinks that's impressive, considering that he can't even muster up a single sentence. Heroism isn't all black and white, kid, Oboro hums out, leaning his cheek against the palm of his hand and as he takes a short sip from his drink. Especially not in school. Hero schools aren't great. Shota was bullied because of his quirk. Everyone declared him a villain since he got his quirk. Even in hero school, that talk keeps going. Hisashi was in foster care where the parents paid to get a hero kid to go into the school. They used things like gags and mouth guards on him at home, and just because my mum was quirkless, kids would go around school calling me names. That kind of stuff doesn't just quit because you got to go to a new school. Its issues more founded in Japan. Hitoshi deflates, folding his hands and glancing over at Izuku. Izuku continues to press his heel against Toshi's just to stabilize himself. UA was supposed to be the big break, the big fish in the sea, the place anyone could go to escape, to guarantee their future, the place All Might went to. And it wasn't. It was just as vile and nasty as the rest of the world, producing villains just like their town did. Bakugo always went on tirades about how different and special he was, to be chosen to go to a school like that. He was just changing from one infested, filthy pond to another. How did you choose this path? What happened to change your mind? Izuku asks, his mind repeating Oboro's words of quirkless over and over. There's a sharp, bitter smile from Oboro. On an internship, I was almost killed. Sho and I were under the same hero, and when the building came down, do you know what he did? He ran. Izuku. He ran away and left 2 teenagers to die. If Shota hadn't managed to find me and save me in time, I'd be... Oboro sucks in a breath and rubs at the back of his neck. A more pleasant smile widens over his lips. That's when Sho became obsessed with me. I guess me making sure he and the other kids getting out of there seemed to snap some interest into me. I woke up in the nurse's office with him practically waiting on me hand and foot. Then, when I was healed, he took me and Hisashi aside and told us he didn't want to be a hero anymore. Not when heroism is a bit of a fancy lie. Isn't that a load of information to take in at once? Izuku doesn't need to look over at Hitoshi to know he's likely grinding his teeth together and picking at his nails. Either way, I've chosen my path, and it's nothing for you kids to concern yourselves over. Oboro chuckles while waving a hand completely oblivious to the teenagers he practically traumatized by his story. Shota is a lot of things, but passionate and dedicated is certainly one of them. Once he latches on to someone, he never lets go. He's been looking for a kid for a while, and I can't say why he likes you since Shota and his infinitely confusing brain... Only Shota and his infinitely confusing brain can. But I can tell you that he loves you with all his heart and that he'll never let you go. That should be a bad thing. It should make his heart shiver with fear while he shriveled up in his seat. Instead, though, all it brings out is a dry, raspy breath. Then what am I supposed to do? Izuku asks, pushing aside his drink, uninterested. Just let him kidnap me and live with him? He's not biologically related to me. I don't know him. Oboro, with a grin, leans over and ruffles Izuku's hair. Yeah, that's exactly. That exactly. Do that. Oboro says, seeing Izuku and Hitoshi's expression at their response. The man can't help but let out a laugh, practically giggling at their boggled faces. Listen, Shota doesn't give up on an obsession. He's going to track you to the end of the world if you agree or not. Shota does care, though. As long as you keep in his life, he won't force you to do anything else. You can do whatever career you want. He'll fund it. As whatever hero school or college is yours, if you ask, any hobby will be paid for. He won't stop you from seeing your friend here. If you'd like, your future's guaranteed. And Hisashi and Shota will love you. Hisashi loves literally anything cute, and Shota already laid claim, so you'll be cared for. And that's it? I just live my life like that? Izuku asks. He twiddles his thumbs, keeping the physical contact constant to stay in the moment instead of drifting away into his mind, and believe they just love me just like that. Yeah, they do love you. It'll take some time to kick in, but I know Shota loves me as a friend with all his heart. He loves you too. He's just that kind of guy. I was abandoned by my mum when I was younger after she ended it all early. So I get what it's like not to have parents. I get that, but trust me, they will be good for you. They don't care about quirks or a lack of them. They don't discriminate, and they have resources to help. Most importantly, they love you. It'll take a while, but one day you'll figure it out. With enough said, Oboro leans forward and pushes Izuku's abandoned drink back into his hands. Now come on, no need to gloom when there's so much morning left. Let's have some fun before Shota eventually runs up and picks us up, okay? And with that, Izuku's left to think about what he's learned as Oboro starts talking about the wild winds in the air that morning, the drink now lukewarm in his hands. Izuku eventually settles to stay with the villains after he and Hitoshi manage to have a talk in the bathroom. It's not ideal, exactly. The S-class villains who killed dozens of people just so Izuku wouldn't run away. But Izuku's mother has already long since made her stand, and running away was clearly outlined as a very bad choice. Oboro was right in regards to just accepting it. It was the easiest and most convenient choice for Izuku. They'd feed him, clothe him, give him warm showers and home, and what? Oh, and soft, fluffy towels he doesn't even have in his own home. Hitoshi is allowed to come to Izuku to help Izuku grab his belongings from his home, and even is given Oboro's phone number so they can help organize hangout sessions. Once Izuku is given his new phone, Oboro promises they can have each other's phone numbers. He even promises to help Hitoshi out with training for heroism whenever he swings by. Things go oddly smoothly after that. Once Izuku manages to gather up his things, ignoring the side-eyed stare Oboro gives at his practically rundown home, Oboro tries to shoo Hitoshi back to his house before allowing him to accompany Izuku back to his new home. Eventually, they're picked up by Shota and Hisashi, who fret over Izuku and talk with Oboro before giving somewhat distant greetings on Shota's part. Hisashi was as open and energetic as Izuku expected to Hitoshi before they all climbed into the car to be driven back with Izuku's duffel bag. He doesn't have a lot to bring, and by the way, Shota sneered at the photos of his mother and the living conditions of the house. He had a particular feeling she was not going to get out of this situation untouched. Izuku tries to protest, but he finds his voice caught in his throat and his eyes brimming with tears. For now, he ignores the topic of his mother and moves back into their apartment with Oboro's eager help and Hitoshi's reluctant and very, very out-of-place help. The whole time, Hitoshi is staring at Eraserhead and Present Mike with an expression most equitable to that of a swallowing goldfish. That's new. Things just go from there. Hitoshi does eventually get taken home, with a call later confirming that he's safe and giving Izuku a list of rules to follow so that way Hitoshi could make sure he wasn't dead. His friend even went so far as to promise to show up at their apartment with a broomstick to smack his newfound caregivers with if they so much as scratched him or if he wasn't able to make the promised call, just like Hitoshi's mother. Hisashi and Shota sit Izuku down that night with cups of cocoa and marshmallows to talk about his mother. Izuku tries not to, but it's in his genes, and he's crying by the second sentence he spills. Shota is the one who draws him into a hug first, holding Izuku and petting his hair until the teen calms down. The whole time he stares at the boy like he holds the world in his hands. It's oddly comforting, in a way, the same way that Izuku hasn't ever received physical affection other than Hitoshi, who was very open with hugging Izuku whenever he needed one. Once he eventually does settle down, they slowly help ease Izuku into the house and help him make his mark to make it his home. They paint his walls, the two of them calling off work to help buy Izuku supplies and spend the day just organizing his new room to his heart's content. Afterwards, they go out for gelato and Shota slides over Izuku's new identity. Aizawa Izuku, to him, all he had to do was fake custody transfership, which he handled with some other things, according to the villain. Izuku doesn't ask what. He's not when Hisashi has an arm over his shoulder and is pointing out the best flavors to Izuku from the menu. The missing pork gets discarded, and Hitoshi's parents, along with the Bakugo parents, soon swing by to visit. And Izuku is on the edge of his seat the whole time as he tries desperately to lie over the whole thing. Worrying people is something he tries to avoid, especially when the truth could lead to villains hunting them down. At the very least, Hisashi and Shota have been in hiding for a long time, so their cover story is convincing, and they're very pleasant, ordinary people in the meetings. Izuku doesn't get it, but they tell him not to worry about their villain dabblings and to worry about his own interests instead. They even promise to help him get into a hero school, even if he wanted to be a hero, which he laughed nervously at and shut down. Once upon a time, maybe, not anymore. Just like them, experiences had sucked any joy or fulfillment that career could have provided. He's very much satisfied with his art. Thank you very much. Honestly, the first few weeks aren't that bad, other than having to cope with the sudden rise of affection and the final nail in the coffin that Inko would never be a mother to Izuku anymore. He manages to settle down and not be on edge all the time anymore. It's still jarring to have people fretting over him like this, and to have access to nicer things that make his head spin, especially since the tension and kindness come from two villains who seem very content to just let Izuku be a 15-year-old boy, without any pressure on him for a quirk or a job. One night, the two men usher Izuku out for a movie night, selecting a collection of old, pre-quirk era movies they thought he'd enjoy. Soon, a steaming bowl of popcorn was propped in the living room, and they were all under a fort Hisashi insisted they build, in watching old-style movies, and as Izuku leaned against Hisashi, who was arguing with Shota about the type of prince he would be if he were one, he let himself get comfortable against his adoptive parents and huddle in the new hoodie they got for him. Maybe this really wouldn't be so bad after all. Okay, lovelies, that is the end to this chapter and the end to Colors of Obsession. So I really like this chapter. I'm a little bit surprised Izuku likes matcha. Sorry, completely random. I'm just really surprised. That's not something I'd imagine. It's fitting though, I will admit. I like how Hitoshi and him still get to be around each other. It would be kind of disappointing if they like never got to see each other again. And the Bakugo parents come over, which implies... Does it imply? Actually, I might be completely wrong. I think it implies that, like, Bakugo isn't with them, which is kind of funny. And I can imagine that. I mean, I can't imagine they'd want Izuku to be around Bakugo. So, for future fanfics, I have a few one-shots lined up. I have chapter 1 to a original story also lined up that might be close to the next one. It's really short at the moment. And I'm actually the beta reader for it. And the reason why I'm a beta reader and the fact that I'm reading it, because I mostly only do My Hero, in fact, I only do My Hero fan fiction, is because I know the author in real life. So, you know. So, I'm going to podfic it. Does it count? I don't even know if it counts as fan fiction because it's an original story with original characters and stuff like that. But that one's a crack fic. We're gonna go with crack fic. I don't know if it's... yeah. So, yeah. Now, for the promised explanation of what's been going on. Basically, I've been confirmed to have surgery soon. In fact, next Monday, we're gonna call the hospital to see my date because they were meant to, or figure out what's going on, because they were already meant to have contacted us about it. And we gave them like a whole extra week to do so, and they still didn't, so we actually have to contact them. The surgery should get rid of my dystonia and tics, which have been acting up throughout the videos, so you'll notice that there's a few times where I might have been interrupted, or you would have heard a hitting sound. That's because one of my tics is hitting my mouth repeatedly, which is fun. So the surgery should, in theory, stop the issue that is causing that. Yeah. Now I was planning on recording this after we got a date, because I have, to be fair, it's because I've been really wanting a date, and last time when I got what we thought was a date, I got a lot of motivation to record podfics, and recorded like 3 in a row. So I was kind of hoping to have that motivation. I didn't get that, but that's fine. I got something, and yeah. I think that's all for today. I don't have anything else I need to say, do I? Yeah, so I believe the next thing I'll be putting up is... Sorry, I've asked a few people recently. So the next one will either be... My next post will either be my re-recording of Big Bad Villain meets Little Hero, which is no longer a one-shot, so I have to re-record that to be accurate, but also because last time the audio cuts out or something, I think, so I really need to re-record that and post that soon, or it'll be 5 times Izuku. Oh, sorry. The last one was written by Leah_Olivia on AO3, like everything else I podfic. Or it'll be 5 times Izuku crashed Hitoshi's place without uninvited, and one time Hitoshi invited him over. Belacorn, 123. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. As always, my lovelies, remember to eat, drink, and sleep, and have a good rest of your day, night, and afternoon, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!